Hi everybody, I will take this webinar today regarding configuring Replicator in Firewall mode. We have just a short presentation, few slides actually, and I will go then to jump into the deep water, let's say, and we'll actually show you the exact configuration steps necessary to configure it successfully within your environment. So let's begin then. So actually what we will talk about is three topics, let's say, which will cover replication between firewall, the web application. It can be also only one web application behind this behind firewall, and it can be both of them or even more of them if we have a huge replication network ahead with SharePoint installed in it. It is a possibility actually to configure only one-way replication. It doesn't matter which web application is behind a firewall in this case as well, and the two-way replication, that means actually that all the content will replicate back to the source as well once on the target is any event captured. Before I just go to the next slide, I just need to talk a little bit about the differences between the firewall and non-firewall replication. So you will find a document assigned to this session as well. It's called Firewall Replication PDF, and all of the necessary information are given there, are written down, and basically step-by-step instructions what to be care of when you are setting up this replication in firewall mode. So maybe some of you know Replicator well, maybe not so well, or maybe we have some people here that even don't know what Replicator is. But in a few words, so actually Replicator is a tool which is capturing all events or all supported events, let's say, on the web application on the SharePoint environment. It doesn't matter how huge network we will have. It can be actually one source, multiple targets, or one source, multiple hops to the target. It even can be round robin to replicate everything everywhere, or in, for example, star replication that you have only one source, multiple targets that I just mentioned before. So there's a lot of things we can achieve with this. And actually, we know that some restricted environments are not allowed to use actually anything without firewalls. So therefore we just implemented, or it was implemented, a pretty straightforward solutions for this kind of product that we actually allowing those organizations to use Replicator also in these restricted environments with firewall mode. So actually it's working over HTTP and HTTPS protocols because it's using bits transfer, and the difference between non-firewall and firewall replication is that if one of the replicator enabled web application is behind a firewall, that is handling actually the whole process of transferring the packages on the other side. So that means if you are behind a firewall and you are, for example, just setting up some one-way replication from the source to the target, and the source is behind the firewall, the source will handle the handover of packages to the non-firewalled web application. Even in a case that you have two firewalled web application and you are doing bidirectional, that means two-way replication, then the package creation always is done on the source web application that's doing through the IIS actually the move of the packages to the destination server. And that's the one difference between firewall and non-firewalled replicator configuration. We have a few prerequisites. It depends on what Windows server we are using. So for example, actually my demo environment is set up on 2016 server and 2016 SharePoint, but we have also possibility to use it on back from Windows Server 2003 Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2008 R2. All of those informations are with the links as well. What do you need to download and configure on the environment are included in this documentation. Actually, what you need to be aware of, that all of the servers have to install an extension for bits on the IIS. How to achieve this, I will show you in a demo, but each of the systems or each of Microsoft systems have a bit different approach, and also how to say it's actually, so basically you need to enable the bits extension on over IIS, which will actually allowing Replicator to handling the package processing and moving to the destination. I will show you the configuration, the prerequisite installation, enabling and actual setup and the configuration of Replicator. My setup is one server with two different web applications, but the main message is the same in all environment. If you are on different or between two different SharePoints, same configuration need to be achieved for both web applications if they are behind the firewall. I would say let's start. Actually, we just need to open the server manager and need to install a feature for the IIS extension. So let's go manage add roles and features. I just have one server, so I just keep to the features instead. And what we need actually, it is background intelligent transport service IIS server extension. It will add some more prereqs, so I just add those features and let's begin the configuration of it and the installation. So let's wait till it's finished. After that we will just jump into the configuration. Maybe just a side note here that some earlier Windows servers needs also some kind of hotfix, which is also available in this document that attached to this session and what I just mentioned, because there are some other issues that they are solving with those kind of hotfixes. Actually, I think there was a crash in the Windows Server 2008 versions of the IIS manager after the bits was installed, the extension. So therefore it required a hotfix. Good, seems to be it's added. It can be it's a possibility, and I just recommend this as well, to recycle the IIS. So let me just reset it first. So then if it's starting again, I will just open IIS again, and we should have there the extension that we just added. So actually I have, just let me show you, this is one of my web application where I will configure between these two, I will configure the firewall mode. It doesn't necessarily need to have any firewall between, because actually it's just a matter of configuration. So for this purpose of this if demonstration, it's enough to show you how to do that. Okay, so let's go back to the central admin and let's go for the configuration. Okay, so actually I have already enabled Replicator on the two web applications, but I will disable them now and reconfigure it again. So just disabling this. And we will start from a scratch, let's say. Let's go back, I will change the web application to the other one. I will set to no, and yes. First we will set up one-way replication, and we will say that actually that this SharePoint web application is behind the firewall. So first of all, we need to enable Replicator on this web application. We have several other options like domain remapping, the unknown inbound user accounts to whatever account we want. We can also remap user to create user remapping table. We can choose how long we need to keep the retain completed packages and other interesting settings. So if this enable event capture replication map on this web application is set to no, actually it will not replicate anything. So we need to basically, because the need to be aware of these settings. By default is set to yes, but sometimes we might find in the situation that is set to no because of some troubleshooting or whatever, and we need to keep this in mind. Also, there is a pause inbound and roadmap package processing for this web application. This is also a good option if you are going to troubleshoot and don't want to have a lot of packages created in the monitor page. There is a source and the data folder. Actually, it's the same for both web application because we are talking about the same server in this case, but it will not actually influence any configuration in this way. So yes, and the last section is the advanced settings, and this is a passphrase that we might set that we can also use. So now I just enabled the replication. This will be, just keep in mind, this SharePoint 80 will be our web application behind the firewall. Let's wait till it creates the hooks in the database. This is the section when it's just creating the sister database in SQL. It takes some time actually, depending on the size and the content, of course, on the database. Okay, so it's enabled. Let's go back. Now we need to go to the other side. Change web application. This will be our web application, not behind the firewall, let's say. And before we enable this, we just go and give some passphrase. Whatever we can use. For example, I will use something. Yeah. So I set the passphrase and hit OK. And then I just after this I just need to go back and now just enable the replication. This is please keep in mind that first need to set the passphrase and then just enable the web application to have it working correctly. Let's wait till it's enabling as well, and then we will go to the source web application, which was designated to be behind the firewall, and we will configure that as well with a group until it's just will be enabled. Maybe just a few words about what's Replicator, what's the groups, and what's the connections, and what's the map families. So actually the group is a virtual repository, let's say, where we can include Replicator connections and map families. Okay, it's enabled, and that group, with the groups, we have the ability to manage our replication or data for replication in many different ways. So let's go and configure a group for the, not this web application, but the other one, which is actually behind a firewall, let's say. So I will just create a group called behind firewall. By default, it's an adaptive mode connection. I can choose if I want to add automatically new connections to this group, but by default is set to no. Actually, we can keep that in that way, and we will choose later when we create the connections. So I created it, the connections have been created, and let's create the connection now on this web application as well. So remember, first need to be created a group, then a connection, and after a connection just the map family. That's the last step. So actually from Firewall and its bits, I will use HTTP only. I need to give the DNS name, so that's SP 2016 REPL, and the port is 111. So I need to specify the target destination data here when I'm creating them, because we are creating from the source the connection to the target, and our source is behind a firewall. So the domain is, I will use my account name, and the target replicator passphrase need to be also included. I can test the connection, and if I configure it correctly, it should tell me that it's successful. Yes, connection is succeeded. So we are good to go. I will add to the selected groups this connection, and I can also check if it's a one-way replication, and I want every content to be applied on the destination. So I can choose apply event in each case, even if there is a newer version. In this newer version of any item. In this case, it doesn't matter. Maybe we will use it as a DR farm, and then we want to have the newest content from here there to replicate there again, or always. So therefore, I will choose apply events if the config rises. Yeah, and which is very necessary. We need to choose firewall mode of replication mode in the bit transpond settings in this case. Good. So actually this will allow Replicator to create the replication connection on the web application where it is not a firewall one. So see, it was created automatically in this case. Back to the source. So let's go back to our firewall replication. Yeah, here we go. And now actually we can create the map family. What we need to specify actually. We can also call it whatever we want. For example, firewall add one firewall on way. I will skip the web application scope. Actually, I can actually set the event classification, but I will let it everything as a default. Yeah, I want to enable this map family. This is the replication group I want to use, and actually there is an advanced settings that I can pause replication map family before I just create anything. It's maybe useful when there is a lots of load, or you don't want to enable it immediately. Just prepare the environment and enable it in specific maintenance windows, for example, and then until it's paused, it will not replicate anything. So actually it's created, and the next window, it will show us what kind of events I want to replicate. So I can use select all, site collection or delete. Actually, I don't want site collection event to be captured. Under the site collection, there is a lot of things. Also, basically, I don't need feature update, so I just need site collection update. Events, for example, and for the website and list items, I will keep everything. So here you see, actually, it's this is the connection name that we created. This is the target URL, and actually hit OK. It will create the map from the inside, from the web application behind the firewall, and when I go to my web application, which is not behind the firewall, it should be the map family created automatically because the connection are there, but need to wait a bit till these changes will be replicated. Actually, we can go and check in the monitor page if we have any events or any issues that we need to solve first. In this case, it should be working pretty much. Replicator health. Yeah, it's just okay. History, no. So I will go to the packages, and yeah, there is still in active state. The package, it was completed in local, so is the map family update. Actually, the map family creation package is going to the other side. Still in unknown. State, so let's see what's happening with the package. Yeah, it was transferred, notification was sent of metadata, so actually it should work. So let's check the map families on the other, and it's there. So actually the map family was added correctly, and now our setup is done from firewall source to non-firewall target. Actually, I can add any documents. For example, this is my website of the source, and we can also test with that. If I just upload a document to this library, that it should be created a package for it, and just verify that everything is working as expected. And this is my destination. I will open here the document library as well. Until then, I just create quickly document file. And let's go back. Sorry for the slowness, but this is a VM only, and for testing purposes, sometimes it's just slow. In the meantime, any questions you can just raise on the chat window and try to answer them immediately. So actually there is a question in the In the chat window, the question is this: do the same settings apply for both hardware and software firewall settings? Actually, there is no matter if you have firewall hardware on or software based on the network, because that's independent from replication. Actually, you need to have open the ports required for the bits on both of them, but most probably you have if you are using HTTPS or HTTP protocols, because they are standards, and you should have them opened because otherwise the users would be not able to reach any websites if you use firewalls. So I would say it doesn't matter, and what's matter, I was explaining in the very very beginning of this installation, that the IIS should have the bits extensions, otherwise it will not work. So that's a mandatory thing to have. Anything else? Maybe. Okay, in the meantime, it just yeah, there's another question. What is BITS? It's BITS. That's a background intelligence transport service which was developed by Microsoft in a while back. That is also using the handling, let's say, handling the packages. For example, when you are installing Windows updates, also it's using bits transport because it's the most reliable protocol, and it can be how to say interrupted anytime, and it will just catch up where it is left off and transfer the stuff to the destination or to the server. Therefore, we are using this kind of protocol as well because it's the most reliable. Also, we have an option to use SFTP instead of bits. SFTP is transport, which is a much more complicated, let's say, to use because you need more ports and you need to have for the transport open lot of things, and it's much more complicated to use, not even in the firewall mode. So actually, I would not recommend to use that. I would recommend to use HTTPS instead of SFTP, and over the bits, of course, which is our current supported protocol. So actually, I just uploaded the document in the meantime. It should create a package, capture it, this change, and just we need to see it in this document library as well. It can take a few moments. So actually, this is interesting. It should be here showing up the capture, but let me quickly verify the map family scope. sometimes it just, therefore it's always good to verify if the map family is also working or just making a testing before we are let it be. So we have a list, I think it's called document library. It's called actually documents. Yep. Okay, where I have it here. No, yes. So it's called documents. Yes, here it is, documents. I just verify the configuration of the map. Yeah, it's enabled and actually it's capturing all events, so this should be correct. We can also check if there are rules, but it shouldn't be because I didn't configure any of the rules. Yeah, it's empty. Okay, so actually we have an ability to queue the map as well if we want to force it. It seems to be it doesn't capture it for some reason. Let me try to force it. And let's see if we will have some packages generated. I will choose include maps, lost items, yes, and I just connections, queue, replicator. I'm just wondering if I choose, yeah, this is the source, yes, so because from other side we have nothing to replicate back, so actually it should work. So let me quickly go to the monitor page. Still nothing. Some reason it was not actually, it's not published. Maybe that's the reason. Check in. Yes, that was the problem here. It was actually not checked in. Sorry about that. I will check in as a major version. Yeah, this is also a good example that if it's not checked in, yes, if it's not checked in, then until replicator will not replicate anything. And now we just need to, yes, and there we have actually the packages showing up. Yep, let's go to here we go, still in active state, and the document library should be showing us the test document once the packages will be completed. So actually this is how it's configured. The only thing you need to keep in your mind when you are doing this in both directions, that you need to create the other connection from the target as well in firewall mode. So actually all of the connections need to be created manually, and they will be not created automatically in the two-way replication. And what if actually the source is not a non-firewalled and the target is firewalled, and we are setting up one-way replication, that it is actually the same as I just showed you, but you need to create the target replication. On the target replication you need to enable the firewall mode connection. So that's the only change.